Picture a childhood. You might imagine playgrounds, classrooms, and a world shielded from the harsh realities of adult life. An age of innocence. Now erase that image completely. You are in ancient Rome. Here, childhood is not a sanctuary. It is a brutal training ground. A race against disease, malnutrition, and the crushing expectations of society. For a Roman child, the line between play and work, between life and death, was terrifyingly thin. We study the emperors and the legions, but we often forget the silent majority. The children whose short lives were the foundation of the empire. What did they play with? What jobs were they forced to do? And at what age was their lost childhood officially declared over? The truth is a shocking and poignant look into a world where growing up was a matter of survival. Their daily routine was a mix of surprising joy and heartbreaking responsibility. What secret games did they play in the shadows of the Colosseum? And what harsh realities did they face before they even learned to read? Subscribe now to uncover the forgotten story of what Roman children really did all day. Picture a childhood. You might imagine playgrounds, classrooms, and a world shielded from the harsh realities of adult life, an age of innocence. Now, erase that image completely. You are in ancient Rome. Here, childhood is not a sanctuary. It is a brutal training ground, a race against disease, malnutrition, and the crushing expectations of society. For a Roman child, the line between play and work, between life and death, was terrifyingly thin. We study the emperors and the legions, but we often forget the silent majority. The children whose short lives were the foundation of the empire. What did they play with? What jobs were they forced to do? And at what age was their lost childhood officially declared over? The truth is a shocking and poignant look into a world where growing up was a matter of survival. Their daily routine was a mix of surprising joy and heartbreaking responsibility. What secret games did they play in the shadows of the Colosseum? And what harsh realities did they face before they even learned to read? Subscribe now to uncover the forgotten story of what Roman children really did all day. The common myth is that Roman children were simply miniature adults, dressed in tiny togas and devoid of any real childhood joy. The truth, as always, is more complex. While it's true that the Roman world lacked our modern concept of a poignant, protected age of innocence, it would be a mistake to assume their lives were joyless. Archaeologists have unearthed a surprising variety of toys, intricately carved dolls for girls, wooden swords and toy soldiers for boys, marbles, hoops, and games of knucklebones. They played, they laughed, and they had moments of carefree fun. The crucial difference, the lost part of their childhood, was the absence of a clear boundary between this play and the harsh responsibilities of adulthood. Play was often a direct rehearsal for their future roles, and the world of work and duty encroached on their lives from a very early age. To understand a Roman child's day, you must first understand the world they were born into. It was a world of staggering infant mortality. It's estimated that nearly half of all Roman children did not survive to the age of 5. This grim reality shaped the Roman psyche. Parents often waited until a child was older before getting too emotionally attached. Legally, a child's life was not even their own. It belonged to the pater familias, the head of the household, who had the absolute power of life and death over them. He could choose to raise the child, sell them into slavery, or, in a practice known as exposure, simply abandon an unwanted newborn to the elements. For those who survived, their path was rigidly defined by social class. A rich child was an investment, groomed for a life of politics or managing the family estate. A poor child was an economic necessity, another pair of hands to work in the fields or the workshops from the moment they could walk. The typical day for a Roman child was a tale of two cities. For a boy from a wealthy family, the morning began with a tutor, often a highly educated Greek slave known as a pedagogus. His lessons were grueling, focused not on creativity but on discipline and memorization, reciting Greek poetry, mastering the complex art of rhetoric for a future in the forum, and learning mathematics for managing accounts. For a poor child, the morning began with work. A young girl might be sent to a textile workshop, spending her day in a noisy, dusty room, learning to weave. A boy might follow his father to the fields, or be apprenticed to a blacksmith, his small hands learning a trade that would define the rest of his life. The afternoon might bring a brief period of leisure. Children would gather in the streets or courtyards to play games, their laughter echoing through the alleys. But even this play had a purpose. Boys would engage in mock battles, their wooden swords preparing them for a life in the legions. Girls would play with jointed dolls, practicing for their future role as mothers and managers of a household. As evening approached, the day would end with a simple family meal. But for many, the end of the day signaled the end of childhood itself. At around age 14, a boy would undergo a ceremony, trading his childhood toga for the toga virilis, the toga of manhood. In the eyes of the state, he was now an adult. For girls, the transition was even more abrupt. They could be legally married as young as 12, trading their dolls for the immense responsibility of running a household and bearing children. Of all these realities, which do you think was the most shocking departure from modern childhood? The early start to work, the absolute power of the father, or the incredibly young age of marriage? Tell us your thoughts in the comments, as the evidence of their lives is truly heartbreaking. Our knowledge of this lost world comes from a poignant mix of sources. Roman writers like Quintilian, a famous teacher, wrote extensively on the Roman educational system, giving us insight into the curriculum and the often brutal discipline, which included regular beatings. But the most emotional evidence comes from the ground itself. Archaeologists have found their toys, frozen in time by the ash of Pompeii, small, articulated dolls made of bone, dice, and beautifully crafted game boards. Even more moving are the thousands of funerary inscriptions found across the empire. These tombstones, commissioned by grieving parents, are a powerful testament to the deep love they felt for their lost children. Inscriptions often read, "To the sweetest daughter," or "To my dearest son, who lived only 8 years." They reveal a world where, despite the harsh legal and social realities, the emotional bonds of family were as strong as our own. The Roman concept of childhood was, at its core, deeply pragmatic. In a world with high mortality and a constant need for labor and soldiers, a long, protected period of innocence was a luxury the empire could not afford. Childhood was a brief, functional period of preparation. This system forged a society of resilient, duty-bound adults, capable of enduring the hardships required to maintain a vast empire. The affection parents felt was real, but it was tempered by the brutal reality that their child might not survive, and that their ultimate purpose was to serve the family and the state. It was a world where a father could weep at the tomb of his beloved daughter, a daughter he may have legally been able to sell just a few years earlier. This is the central paradox of the Roman family. In the end, the story of a Roman child is a powerful reminder that our modern concept of childhood is not a universal truth, but a very recent and privileged invention. The Roman world was not built by superheroes or mythical figures. It was built by generations of children who were forced to grow up too soon, who traded play for work, and innocence for duty. Their lost childhood was not a tragedy to them, it was simply life. Their story forces us to look at our own world and appreciate the immense value of a time dedicated solely to learning, play, and the freedom to simply be a child. What do you think? Was the Roman approach to childhood a brutal necessity, or the empire's greatest tragedy? Let us know in the comments. If you're fascinated by the hidden lives of the people who shaped the ancient world, subscribe and hit the notification bell. And click here to watch our next video. The secret daily life of a Roman empress, more than just togas and power.